changes, we'll keep you up to date with the latest information. News Talk KVNU 102 FM 610 AM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Logan Extermination. A 44-year-old Wellsville man has pleaded guilty to sexually abusing two girls for years. Stephen Lambert accepted a plea deal that will send him to prison. Lambert was in First District Court Monday afternoon. He waived his rights to a fair trial and pleaded guilty to 3 counts of aggravated sexual abuse of a child, a first-degree felony. Defense attorney Michael McGinnis explained that as part of the agreement, prosecutors dropped 13 remaining charges. They will also recommend 2 of the charges run concurrently and 1 consecutively at the time of sentencing. Lambert was arrested in June 2021 after a woman reported being sexually abused by him while she was a teenager. She told Logan City police officers how he molested and raped her from the time she was 12 years old until graduating high school. As the investigation continued, a second victim came forward explaining how she was also sexually abused by Lambert when she was 8 years old. A third victim and other individuals were also interviewed, providing information and corroborating the women's reports. The victims were all acquaintances of Lambert, who was considered to be a person of trust. The crimes occurred around 2007 to 2011. KVNU News Time is 5:06. KVNU weather for tonight. Slight chance of showers and thunderstorms this evening. Mostly cloudy skies. Patchy fog developing after midnight. Overnight low around 60. And then patchy fog Thursday morning. A 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Partly cloudy skies. High around 90. Mostly cloudy Thursday night. And then a 40% chance of showers and storms Friday afternoon. It's been to 89. It's 89 degrees right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Cache Valley's most trusted name in hearing aid technology. Call 753-HEAR. That's 753-HEAR.
As the summer's war against weeds and pests rages on, a new bug threat starts hopping around, destroying garden plants and flowers. Luckily, you are ready for them with Logan Extermination's Perimeter Grasshopper Control. It's like a minefield for the minute menace.
Good job, men. Another bug bites the dirt. Let's regroup before the next wave hits.
They do what they are trained to do. Strike terror into termites, bash the bed bugs, and cook the cockroaches. Remember the brave men and women at Logan Extermination. Call 752-8450.
Treatment areas vary. Call for a quote today.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. The Cache Valley Chamber of Commerce is hosting a tour of Spartronics, Logan, for state lawmakers and other local elected officials. The private tour is scheduled for tomorrow morning from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Spartronics Logan is located at 750 East, 1600 North on the Innovation Campus of Utah State University. The company focuses on contract manufacturing services for key markets, according to Paul Frapont, the president and CEO of Spartronics. Those markets include commercial aerospace, defense, medical devices, life science, instrumentation, and control, as well as space exploration. Spartronics specializes in printed circuit board assemblies, subsystem integration, and full box builds for its worldwide customers. And a Texas teen who went missing from a Layton treatment center was found safe in Salt Lake City. Officials with the Layton Police Department said the 16-year-old girl was found around 8 p.m. Tuesday thanks to a tip from someone who spotted her in the area. Police said the girl went missing from a treatment facility last week. Officials say that she was being reunited with her family. There was no indication of foul play, according to police, and additional details were not available. KVNU News Time is 5:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
The station for news and talk. KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
It's fall clearance time at Anderson's Seed and Garden. Need another tree for some extra shade? Looking for a few shrubs to hide the neighbor's derelict car? Anderson's cash and carry sale is underway, and they have exactly what you need. Sale prices start at 15% off, but if you pay with cash, they'll give you an extra 10% off that plant purchase. That's another 25% off with a cash purchase. Take advantage of the great weather, the perfect planting conditions, and the great sale prices at Anderson's Seed and Garden, 69 West Center, Logan.
There's never been a better time to buy a new visionary home. Through the month of August, if you buy now, you save now. What does that mean? For new home buyers, through August, you can receive up to 3% of the purchase price back to use toward closing costs, or even to buy down the mortgage interest rate. That's potentially thousands of dollars in savings and upfront closing costs and on your monthly payments for the life of the loan. Contact a Visionary Homes new home consultant today to buy now and save now.
Built for living, visionary homes.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
My husband had a gun. Him and his friends would go shooting. When he stored the gun, he didn't know. In a million years, we never thought that Emily could. There's a hole in our family that can never, ever be filled.
65 Americans a day die by gun suicide. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn more at infamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Can't decide what to start off with here because one has my interest a little bit more so. The other could potentially generate so much interaction with our listeners we could spend the whole hour on it because it, well, I mean, to be blunt, deals with property tax increases, which, you know, everyone's always so calm and happy about that topic, right? And I get it. I think it myself sometimes. I'm a firm believer in the philosophy of, tax paying being like a due to be a part of an exclusive club. You get a lot for that. One of my least favorite things to hear, because it's just boneheaded, are things like, I don't have any kids in public school. Why do I got to pay the taxes? Well, I guarantee your life in one way or another has benefited from public education. And is still benefiting from what public education means, primarily a qualified and trained workforce that draws businesses in so that there are jobs and services and goods and things we can go do for fun. So, go ahead, stop paying your public education system, stop paying for it and see what happens. We all benefit from it. So I dislike hearing things like that. But I also, when you think about it, I always want to ask what's the long-term picture? Property taxes we know things are going to get more expensive. When we talk about population growth here in Cache Valley, it's projected to grow 66% at least in the next 30 years. A lot of that, of course, is going to mean more children in schools, and that's going to be happening statewide. Education, K through 12 education, is already one of the biggest single costs to the state, to taxpayers. When it comes to the overall state budget, I think it's about 30% of the state budget now, and it grows every year, and will continue to unless everyone stops having children. And even then, it would still just level off. It wouldn't shrink, at least not for 10 years, the costs. So it's expensive. I get it. You have to do it. You would be absolutely shooting yourself in the foot economically if we didn't do it collectively as a state. But it's still worth asking that question. You know, property taxes can't go up indefinitely. And property taxes aren't just for education. They go to a lot of things. But, you know, education is a big chunk of why your property taxes are what they are. There are certain checks in the system here, and I think that's great, which is, you know, like truth in taxation. When we think truth in taxation, you think of those meetings, which, by the way, hold tight, because that's what we're going to be talking about here. Some meetings coming up in August for 4 cities here in the Valley. One city that is proposing a 46% increase in their property tax budget because they have to, not because they want to. You know, and a couple of years ago, we had cities, Smithfield City was looking at having to jump 150% in their property taxes because previous leadership had just kicked the can down the road for more than a decade, and the city was about to go broke. You know, it's worth asking that question. You know, where does this all go? Property taxes can't increase indefinitely. They can increase matched with wage growth and you know, things like inflation. Things just, you know, consistently get. You've probably heard your dad or your grandpa say that, you know, when I was a kid, a quarter, we'd get a 6-pack of pop and a full tank of gas for a quarter. This is not the case today. Even though gas prices are coming down very rapidly over the last few weeks, it's still more than a quarter, right? That's just how things go. And, you know, $1 million used to be just an unimaginable amount of money 10, 15, 20 years ago. Now it's not. Now it's billionaires and mega billionaires. This is just the way of things. I'm not saying it has to be or should be. I'm just saying it is for the time being. So, you know, prices are going to go up. Things are going to get more expensive. I get it. But still, property taxes can't increase indefinitely. So I wish the state would get serious about looking at other ways of funding, at least experimenting with other ways of funding public education. There are different tax bases. Other states now, Utah is, I think, Utah's one of the better states when it comes to specifically just that relationship between property taxes and public education. We fund less of our education system through property taxes than most other states. A lot of states fund all of their public education system through property taxes, and their property taxes are high. Their other taxes are very low, but they're high as far as in contrast with what we pay here in Utah to our education system through property taxes. So I'm not saying that our system is the worst. I'm just saying I hope that we stop every once in a while and just look at this and look at some of the trends and ask that question, can this continue indefinitely? Is it sustainable? I don't know. Maybe it is. So to the point here, 4 cities in Cache Valley are hosting public hearings in the coming months. Well, I'm sorry, one has already passed, and that's my fault. I intended to actually bring this up last week, and I forgot. So the public hearing in Hyde Park has already, North Logan has already taken place. North Logan residents, on August 3rd, there was a public hearing on a proposed property tax increase. The ones you haven't missed, if you're a Hyde Park resident, your city plans to hold their public hearing on property tax increase proposals August 24th at 7 p.m. at the Hyde Park City Building. Nibley, they'll have a public hearing August 25th, the next day, at 6:30 p.m. at the Nibley City offices there on 3200 South. And Wellsville, they'll hold theirs before that, August 17th. So Wellsville City next, 1 week from today, will be hosting their public hearing on a proposed 46.26% increase. Almost a 50% increase in their property tax budget for Wellsville City being proposed. That meeting August 17th at 6:30. I'm not throwing this out there to be critical because, as I said, I wanted to qualify this with a statement. I think when people pretend that you can run a city, and let me put it this way. I've spoken off the record with a lot of city employees who will be the first to tell you the same people to complain about, the money they're having to contribute through taxes to their city are usually the first ones to call about a pothole that they want the city to fix. And they want all this to happen magically without costing them a dime. It's human nature. We're all like this, but it ain't realistic. You got to pay in, right? Now, you can have conversations about whether your city could be spending less in other areas. You can have conversations about whether your city is, offering services they don't need to. Maybe there's something that could be offered through private systems. Maybe there's something the state already offers that your city's duplicating, or vice versa. Maybe there's something your city's doing that the state's duplicating, and they could save some money and kick it back to cities. These conversations should always be happening. They should never stop. But you have to start on the foundation that it costs money to have a quality of life, and some of that money is going to have to run through public entities like cities. Because when it comes to fire services, road services, there are certain things you just do not want privatized, because we did that in the past and you see how it goes. So that's the reality I think we all need to start with. But again, on the flip side of that, is all of this sustainable? So Wellsville City, for example, and again, I have zero information. I've reached out to the city manager in Wellsville City, reached out to him just today and haven't heard back yet, but I'm sure we will, and we'll get a chance to talk to him about this. But this may be necessary. But 46% increase to the public or to the property tax budget for the city, that's a big jump. Now, maybe that happened because previous leaders in the city, like what happened with, a couple of years ago, Smithfield and a couple other cities were facing at potential 150% increases because there was no other way to meet the bare minimum cost of running the city. And the reason they ended up in that spot is previous opportunistic elected officials had kicked the can down the road for 15 years until the bill came due, literally. So, it might be something like that. Maybe Wellsville is considering a big expansion. I know there's been a lot of growth there, and I know that Wellsville city planners have been interested in attracting new businesses and things like that into the city itself rather than relying so much on other communities. Or seeing their residents go out to other communities to spend money. So I know that Wellsville has a vision, and they're doing some amazing things in their downtown, especially with that city center, community center type tabernacle restoration that's going on and about complete. So Wellsville has a plan. They're growing like crazy. This is not for much longer going to be, this small mouth of the canyon as you come into Cache Valley community that everyone just drives past. They have a goal of drawing people in, getting people to come in, open their wallet, spend money. It didn't go anywhere, but years ago there was a proposal even to look at like a bed and breakfast style business near the downtown because of the views alone in Wellsville. If you haven't seen them, it's amazing, especially in the early mornings, those Wellsvilles as the morning sun hits them. But it's a beautiful community. They are limited on how much they can grow geographically, but also water-wise. They depend on water in some different ways. So it's not going to be a metropolis ever, but it is going to grow, and that means changes. And so this 46.26% proposed property tax increase might be, accepting that, might be acknowledging that and saying, look, we've run this place as a tiny city for too long. It stretched us too thin. We need to be serious about this and realize we're growing, realize the city's changing, and realize that comes with responsibilities and needs from the residents that the city needs to be able to meet. And so that could very easily be the entire reason for the proposed 46% increase. The reason I point all this out is that I think it's important we aren't knee-jerk about this stuff. When you go to these public hearings, the point of the public hearing isn't an opportunity for you to rant and rave about paying taxes in general and how none of us should have to do it. The point of these public hearings is to go and share your opinion with your city on how you feel about this, where you think if additional monies are collected, the money should go towards, or if you oppose this increase, what you propose as an alternative that's something more serious than none of us should have to pay taxes, of course. That's the point of this. The city, when they hold now they're legally required to hold these hearings, but the point of these hearings, the reason the state requires them of every city whenever there's an increase proposed, is to bring all these minds together, realizing that the community might have something to suggest that could be a benefit to the way forward. The city maybe has some information the community doesn't have that they can disseminate, and then people are like, oh, okay, I get it. That's the whole point of this. So be there. Again, if you're a resident of any of these cities, North Logan held theirs last week. We missed that one, August 3rd. My fault. I was going to bring this up last week and I forgot. But you still, if you're a Hyde Park resident, they're holding their public hearing, Truth and Taxation public hearing on a proposed property tax increase, August 24th at 7 p.m. The next night, Nibley City will hold their public hearing, Truth and Taxation public hearing required by the state on a proposed property tax increase. That is August 25th at 6:30 p.m. at the Nibley City Hall. And then previous to that, coming up 1 week from today, August 17th, if you're a Wellsville resident, 6:30 p.m. at the Wellsville City Building there, right on the main strip as you come into town. They proposed 46.26% property tax budget increase will be presented, explained by the city, and then there will be an opportunity for feedback, Q&A, all of that. And bring your ideas. Honestly, because it does. It's easy to say, they've got a plan. They won't listen to me. That is not at all the case. I've seen it happen. We've been in meetings like this. Our show and also members of our news team have been in meetings like this where we've actually witnessed someone who just showed up to learn more, raising their hand and proposing something that ends up changing the city's plan and the plan that ends up affecting all residents of the city in a very positive way. So be there, bring your ideas. Don't feel like you can't gripe. That's also, it's an opportunity for you to vent. I know if I was a resident of some of these cities a couple of years ago that were proposing that needed, granted, to increase property taxes 150%, I would have had a few things to say about former city leadership and putting some accountability into the system to make sure that never happened again. So if these increases were necessary for the last 10, 15 years, that they happened in small increments rather than boom, surprise, 150%, because that's a lot harder for families to absorb. That's a failure of leadership, in my opinion. So, yeah, I would have had a lot to say. But, again, go to these meetings to learn, but also go to share your ideas. And please go, because these really do matter. They are required by the state, but it's not just lip service. The city's there to learn from residents as often as residents can learn from the city at these Truth and Taxation meetings. And at very least, you'll learn a lot about your city's budget, at very least. So, again, one more time, coming up, Hyde Park, August 24th at the Hyde Park City Building, 7 p.m., August 24th. The next night, Nibley, August 25th, 6:30 p.m. at the Nibley City offices there on 3200 South at the south end of the valley. And preceding all of that, Wellsville City hosting a Truth and Taxation public hearing August 17th, 1 week from today, 6:30 p.m. If you're a Wellsville resident, it'll be right there at the Wellsville City Building. And, there is some more controversy around this, although it shouldn't really be controversial. It stems from a recent letter to the editor by Nibley City Mayor Sean Dustin. The Herald-Journal reported on this, having, of course, seen the letter to the editor before anyone else. They jumped right on top of it. And the short version of this, Mayor Sean Dustin of Nibley expressed some concerns over how the county was assessing home values. And he said that he worried, based on some trends he'd seen with county assessments, that the taxes were being based on, a bubble that would burst, but after everyone paid, and he felt there was enough transparency in the system. Cache County Assessor Kathleen Howe responded and sat down with the Herald-Journal to explain how they're coming up with these evaluation systems. She explained the guaranteed amount, which affects rates. Short version of that, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but say a county is guaranteed by the state $1 million in revenue from property taxes. Well, if as dynamics of the environment change, rates adjust to reflect that, so the county is never collecting oodles and oodles more above that $1 million and just gouging pocketbooks to do so. So things have there's basically a scale of sorts, a sliding scale, and that moves automatically by law. So if so that no county in the state is ever going to be just rolling in dough and fleecing their residents because of a sort of a boom housing market that year. It doesn't happen. There are checks against that, and Hal explained that a lot of this is not their discretion. County assessors can make certain decisions and value homes based on, micro markets. They do their best to try and do that, looking at houses in the same neighborhood of the same size and rough value, estimated value. It's not perfect. It'll never be an exact science, but a lot of it, honestly, county assessors don't get to decide. The state has taken this over more and more so over the last 10 years plus here in Utah. So check it out. Great explanation of how property values are assessed, the mechanisms at play there in the story I've linked to on our Facebook page. And I swear that's it for Property Tax Talk, unless anyone has anything to say. 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
Suffering from chronic symptoms that affect your ability to live your life can be frustrating. At Red River Health and Wellness, we know that although lots of people visit doctors and specialists, many still can't find useful answers to symptoms like exhaustion, anxiety, weight gain, hair loss, and more. That's why at Red River we pay close attention to your autoimmune condition and focus on using non-pharmaceutical approaches to help you live your best life. Call Red River at 855-55-RIVER, with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News, the legal battle forming after the FBI raid of former President Trump's home and how it raises questions about whether he could be barred from running for office again. Also, examples of how companies are trying to create an environment that's stimulating to younger employees and what most couples are asking for these days as a wedding gift. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Heart valve disease is more common than you or your doctor may think, especially as you get older. It's serious but treatable with the proper diagnosis. If you or a loved one are experiencing shortness of breath, fatigue, chest tightness or pressure, dizziness or fainting, talk to your doctor and ask for an echocardiogram to get diagnosed early and enjoy your best quality of life. Learn more at askforecho.com. That's ask4echo.com.
I appreciate this. Big thumbs up from a listener. Ted, messaging in here, said that was one of the most responsible and comprehensive conversations about upcoming property tax truth in taxation meetings, what property taxes mean and pay for, and how important it is for us all to keep a very close eye on every player involved while acknowledging that it's a system we all have to pay into and share the costs of. I appreciate that. That's what I was shooting for. I sit squarely in the middle of two extreme sides on this one, which is not something I usually do at all. But in this one, I'm squarely in the middle between what I believe are two extreme sides. There's the absolute kind of anti-taxation side. That even though they won't say it that way, if you really get talking to them, that's what they're talking about. They'll usually say something like, they should spend less. But then if you start digging and say, okay, on what? What do you want to see them cut? What do you want to see your city not do anymore? You'll quickly find out that it's just something they don't care about or something they don't use. And then you say, well, other people depend on this. And they say, well, I don't care. And to me, that becomes a very silly conversation and should not be taken seriously. On the flip side of that, I know some people as well that just want to remain oblivious to the fact that this could reach a point of unsustainability. Property taxes can't go up forever. The cost of education is going to continue to rise in this state for at least the next 30, 40 years as population grows. It's going to get more and more expensive for a lot of different reasons, many of them not at all in our control, to run a K through 12 public education system. Yet, at the same time, you have to. And don't even pretend otherwise with me, because the alternative is you don't have any businesses that want to locate in your state. And that's the reality. So you have to pay for this. Well, I mean, in Utah, you literally have to. It's constitutionally mandated that you pay for a K through 12 education system through the state legislature's budgeting process. Mandate in the state constitution. But even if it weren't there, it's a dang good idea. So it's going to get more expensive. We're going to have to pay for it. And yet, to pretend that things couldn't reach a tipping point where it's not feasible for people to live in Utah anymore because property taxes are so high to pay for education, wages are so low because of other policy decisions that have kept them low, which is literally the case here in Utah. It's unsustainable. Something's got to give, but what? I don't know. But so that's the other extreme, I think, the idea that everything's fine and we need to change nothing and we just let things, truck along. And maybe, for 10, 15, maybe even 20 years, that's fine, probably. I'm just saying down the road, we're going to have to look at this and say, are there other funding mechanisms we should be using? Are there different ways to fund different things, not just K through 12 education that would free up more money for K through 12 education? I don't want to see us go where other states have gone, which is, there are some states, again, that fund their K through 12 system. Nearly 50% of the funding comes from property taxes. And property taxes in the state are a lot higher than they are here in Utah because of that. On the flip side, there are other states that just poorly fund their public education system and pretend that's fine because they can't afford to do otherwise because they want to keep everything from growing tax-wise. It's just, both approaches are long-term, not very realistic. So I would rather see us be pragmatic and talk about this now. So appreciate the listeners' feedback there. That's exactly what I was shooting for. I think the sweet spot is in between these two extremes, where you recognize it's a system we all benefit from and we've all got to pay into to make it work. And on the flip side of that, it's also a system that can grow exponentially out of control until property taxes are so high it's not affordable to live in certain areas. And so making sure we don't get in either of those extreme camps is a good idea. I'm not saying any of these upcoming property tax public hearings are that. I'm not pointing the finger at any city and saying, they just see an opportunity and they want to, take more from taxpayers to line the gutters with gold. It's nothing like that. I would guarantee it's nothing like that. I would guess if there's a large proposed property tax increase, it's more of a failure of past leadership, people not doing their jobs years ago and kicking cans down the road, and then suddenly the bill literally comes due, and you're looking at a 50%, or as Smithfield was a couple of years ago, 150% proposed increase to property taxes, just to keep the lights on in the city, keep their potholes filled, and everything else the city has to do, fire departments and more. So, again, not pointing the finger at any city, trying to hit that middle ground between the two extremes, and urging people just to get out to these, because you'll have ideas I guarantee that people will benefit from hearing. They will have information they can share with you as taxpayers that will make you understand and maybe even feel better about some of the proposals. Or maybe otherwise. Maybe you'll get more information and realize that the proposal is a cockamamie plan and should be scrapped and started over on. That happens. But it doesn't get caught unless you're there. So, again, dates for these I posted on our Facebook page. Appreciate the feedback from a listener. On the other side, this was a story, an old story, actually, that got some new attention today as body camera footage from highway patrol officers was released to the Salt Lake Tribune. But it raises some really legitimate questions about public access to our legislative process and some rules in place that I think the public should engage more loudly with our lawmakers on changing. It's the story of a person who was removed from a public meeting at the Capitol, a hearing on a bill, a proposed bill, I think. It wasn't actually written yet. And this individual broke a rule that is kind of a tiny little, I can't believe they even enforce it, I would say petty rule about T-shirts and stickers, which I've worn. T-shirts with messages, political messages, into a committee hearing. I've done that on accident. I didn't realize I was doing it, but I've done it. This person was asked to leave, didn't. It got heated, and the man was eventually arrested. The body camera footage from the Highway Patrol was published today as part of a regularly scheduled public records dump that happens when no media have requested it or no citizens have requested it specifically. And the Salt Lake Tribune wrote it up as a little story. Well, it's become a bit of a fireball today because it really highlights how silly some of these rules are when it comes to the public being able to show up, participate in, and express their opinion in a public meeting they're paying for as taxpayers. We'll talk about it and what maybe needs to change on Capitol Hill right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:40. News brought to you by Whole Tree Care. Utah Governor Spencer Cox appeared on the Utah Broadcasters Association's Direct Link program last night, which was broadcast on News Talk KVNU. Growth and affordable housing continue to be big issues, and the governor had an interesting factoid about growth in the state.
For the first time last year, more people moved into Utah from outside of Utah than our internal growth. Historically, over the last 10 years, even though we've been the fastest growing state, it's been internal growth that's been driving that. So for the first time, we had more people moving from outside the state. But of those that moved from outside the state, 25% of those are people who have lived here before. That's very unique. In fact, that's the highest percentage anywhere in the country of people moving back to the place where they've lived before.
The governor said they want to make sure this is a place where people can come back and raise their families. Now, over the past week, Utah, from north to south, has enjoyed some soaking rains that unfortunately have led to flooding in parts of southern Utah. But Governor Cox said we should continue as though the overall drought is going to continue.
So right now, our statewide reservoir storage is about 51% on average capacity, which is actually a little better than last year. So I'm excited about that. But still, we're about 15% lower than where we should be right for this time normally. There are so many things. We passed about 12 bills last year, and those are just coming into effect now. The funding just came into effect on July 1. We're incentivizing conservation. That's the most important thing.
Cox said now there's the first statewide grass rebate program going with $5 million funding that. Also last week, the Board of Water Resources authorized $200 million in funding for secondary metering, which can produce an average water reduction of 20 to 30%. Two single-engine aircraft banked from opposite directions toward the same runway in North Las Vegas before a crash last month that killed all 4 people aboard. That's according to a preliminary report Friday from the National Transportation Safety Board. A diagram of the July 17th crash shows the paths of a Piper airplane from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, with 2 people aboard, and a Cessna 172 with an instructor and student pilot come together at the North Las Vegas airport. And U.S. officials will not approve a natural gas pipeline from Idaho to Wyoming until additional environmental studies are completed. A U.S. District Court on Wednesday approved an agreement between the Forest Service and 2 environmental groups that filed a lawsuit to stop the 50-mile Crow Creek pipeline project. The Forest Service agreed to complete a supplemental environmental impact statement before authorizing the project. Wyoming-based Lower Valley Energy wants to build the pipeline that would start near Montpelier and run to Afton, Wyoming. But the pipeline crosses Forest Service land, and the Alliance for the Wild Rockies and Yellowstone to Uinta's connection say it will harm protected grizzly bears. KVNU News Time is 5:44.
Men, sometimes women drop subtle hints like,
Honey, we've been driving for a while. Are you hungry?
Nah, I'm good.
What's wrong? Are you crying?
I'm starving and you won't let me eat.
Women can speak a different language. So here's a hint, guys. Call Hull Tree Care to trim and shave your overgrown trees and shrubs. Your yard will look amazing. Your trees will be healthier. And your wife? Well, take her out to eat, okay? Hull Tree Care. That's Hull Tree Care. 760-6587.
KVNU weather tonight, mostly cloudy, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms this evening, patchy fog after midnight, low around 60. Patchy morning fog on Thursday, and then a 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Partly cloudy, high around 90. It's been to 90 today. It's 89 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather is brought to you by Roof Rescue. Even if you're denied by your insurance company the first time you receive a quote to fix your roof, a free reevaluation can be made. Go to roofrescueusa.com for more details. And for more information on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Monday, August 22nd, come help ignite the light with Alex Boyer as he performs a free concert at the Cache County Fairgrounds, bringing positive support to suicide prevention. Suicide affects all walks of life, backgrounds, and age demographics. Join Alex Boyer Monday, August 22nd for a free concert bringing attention to suicide prevention and a new national suicide and crisis lifeline, 988. If you think you may need help or just want to talk with someone, call 988. Donations of any size are accepted and welcome to help make this event possible. Go to CashValleyIgniteTheLight.com for concert details and donation information. The outpouring of support for this event last year was unbelievable. Business and individual donations are vital for the 2022 event. Join Alex Boyer at the Cache County Fairgrounds Monday, August 22nd for a free concert bringing attention and positive support to suicide prevention. Donations of any size are accepted and welcome. Go to CashValleyIgniteTheLight.com for concert details and donation information.
That's CashValleyIgniteTheLight.com.
And thank you for making this event possible.
Cache Valley. Close to it all, but just far enough away. We've always had our own way of doing things, and we're proud of it. And our transit district is paving the way to keep that spirit alive. CVTD is forging the path to help fuel the economy, from helping your neighbor get to work to clearing up the commute time traffic. We drive the economy, and CVTD drives us. Visit cvtdbus.org for service information.
Hey everyone, my name is Jillian Christensen, and I'm the 2022 Cache County Fair and Rodeo Junior Queen. And I'm inviting you to come on down and see the Cache County Fair and Rodeo the 10th through the 13th of August. You can buy your tickets at the Cache County Event Center and at the IFA in North Logan. Get your tickets early online at cachecounty.org/fair. I hope to see you all at the Cache County Fair and Rodeo on the 10th through the 13th of August.
Come on out, let's have some fun at the Cache County Fair.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Interesting, possibly controversial topic. Just a quick announcement. 1800 North, 6th West, starting tomorrow. Avoid it. It's going to be closed.
They've had those the road signs up, the flashing electronic signs for quite some time.
A while, warning you, trying to give everybody as much heads up as they can. The reason I take the time to point this out is this has become, which is part of why the road's going to be closed for about 4 weeks. It's become a little bit of a unexpected traffic hotspot. It's a great route to certain destinations if you're trying to avoid, especially in the afternoon, that whole 14th North, whatever we're calling that now.
the former
Thunderdome
traffic light.
4 blocks of Thunderdome. It is it's a crazy intersection.
It's tricky. It's tricky driving through there.
Yeah, 3 to 6, roughly. Maybe a little earlier than that even. But, yeah. So 1800 North has become, especially the 6 West route, has become a little bit of a bypass, I know. There also are quite a few new housing complexes there, apartment buildings and townhomes that have been built. A big business district there near, it used to be Ductworks. I'm not sure if it still is. There's a few. And then a little strip of warehouses back behind.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of traffic there. And then some older established businesses. I know there's a repair shop and some other things there. So that have been there quite a while, since I was a kid even. So it's a busy intersection and has been for a long time, but it's recently gotten more busy. So closing this is going to be a pretty big deal, mainly because closing 1800 North is going to immediately reconfigure all of the traffic back to 1400 North or 2100. And those are, like Bill and I were just saying, already very busy. Shout out to everyone working at Campbell Scientific and Box Drop Mattress and Furniture and all those, because that road in front of you is going to probably be just packed. But yeah, 1800 North, 6 West, starting tomorrow morning, will be closed, and it'll be closed for at least a month. 4 weeks, they're saying, that's the target completion of this project. And this is, they're going to be installing, upgrading the utilities, anticipating a lot of growth. This is where all the apartments and smaller, high-density townhomes, new construction is going to happen, basically. So the city has to build out the infrastructure. So there's going to be some upgrading to utilities, sewer lines, power, all of that stuff happening, and it's going to take them about a month. It's going to happen in all directions, so the intersection there at 18th North and 6th West will be completely closed starting tomorrow morning. So if you're out there now, you're good. But plan on avoiding the area, at least, Logan City said, through mid-September at least. So there you have it. All right. This was a story, it's actually kind of old at this point, but it's made new again today by the release of body camera footage from from Utah Highway Patrol, which handles security. They handle security at the Capitol during the legislative session and special sessions. I think this happened during a special session, not the regular legislative session, but it stems back to a late March public hearing that was happening on the Utah State Legislature has a committee that deals with health policy, and they were debating a proposed bill by a lawmaker ahead of floor time. This wasn't during a floor vote or anything like that. Oh, this was during the regular session. Sorry, it was early March, not late. So early March of this year, they were debating a bill that would ban vaccine passports. These weren't a thing, never became a thing, but it was in certain, especially right-leaning forums online, it was a big theory that these were going to become a thing, that vaccine passports were going to be required to travel from state to state, to get into sporting events, to get into... now, there were some locations, including the Jazz Arena in Salt Lake, where you had to show proof of vaccination there for a while to get in. That was just smart health policy. It was recommended by the health department and the CDC, and the owners of the stadium said, we will do this for the health of our team and the health of our attendees. It was temporary, and it did its job, and now it's done. But that led to a lot of folks saying this is going to become like, check your papers at the crossing guard stops of Nazi Germany. You've all seen those scenes in the movies, right? Or in the historic photo books. It never became that. But anyway, the Utah State Senate was debating a bill that would have banned these hypothetical vaccine passports, a very legitimate thing for a legislative committee to be discussing. And so nothing controversial about that. But the meeting was packed. And it was packed with the people who don't normally show up for these types of things. Professional protesters from out of state. People who make their money having YouTube channels and Instagram accounts. Just being professionally protesting all things. And they packed the room. So the Highway Patrol was ready for this. The senators on hand, members of the committee, were ready for this. Utah media on hand were ready for this. Everyone knew this was going to be more theater than anything else. And they were prepared for it. So what happens is there's this guy there that the guy is wearing an anti-vaxxer T-shirt, basically. I don't even remember exactly what it says, but it was a T-shirt with a political message on it. And that's against the rules, basically. Technically, it happens a lot, and it's just no one says anything. But often there's actually a rule that you can't even bring a sign, a poster board, into a public hearing on Capitol Hill. The reason for these rules is there's official work being done. And so they want to discourage these things turning into media circuses, which is exactly what everyone in the audience was there for during this event. The professional protesters from the anti-vax community were looking to get their faces and signs on TV. That was the goal of showing up. And the senators knew this. And so they asked the Highway Patrol to actually enforce existing rules about political signs and T-shirts. But here's my problem with this, and the body camera footage released today shows this and proves what was originally reported by the Salt Lake Tribune without photo evidence, which is that this guy was actually wearing a sticker. He was wearing a sticker. I mean, he was agitated as they were dragging him out, obviously. He was handcuffed and removed from the Senate hearing on a bill proposing the banning of vaccine passports. He was, to the credit of the Utah Highway Patrol officers, before they dragged his behind out, he was given several opportunities to leave voluntarily. And the body camera footage released today shows all of this as reported is exactly what happened. The man was arrested, charges were dropped, and Senate leadership had a long discussion about, regretting the entire incident and maybe changing some of the procedures for staffers and the public to ensure something like this didn't happen again. But under existing decorum rules, he was in violation. And he was asked to leave because of that. And he refused several times. And eventually he was handcuffed, never charged. Charges were dropped. He was handcuffed, physically dragged from the meeting, got his face all over the news that evening. And the whole thing died down because vaccine passports weren't ever really a thing. The bill itself just kind of fizzled. It was House Bill 60. And that was the end of it. But here's what reading through all this, a sticker? Really? Like, he had a sticker on his T-shirt, and he was asked to leave because, I don't know. Sometimes I think our elected officials in their quest to force decorum and I get it, it was so obvious. All the anti-vaxxers were there at this hearing that day just to get their own notoriety, to boost their own YouTube channel numbers, which they monetize. I mean, they were hijacking an official public proceeding of the Utah State Legislature for their own personal gain, and they were jumping on a bandwagon to do so. And I get it. All of this is wasting taxpayer money for nothing. I get it. It's going to happen. Let it play out. Let it fizzle. You ended up giving them more notoriety by dragging this man from the room. And again, over a sticker. I have a really hard time seeing that someone in the audience, even if you are very clear on their intent, and even if they're not even a Utahn, which was the case with this guy, let him sit there over a sticker. Let him sit there. Let their sticker be photo. Who cares? Who cares if they have a T-shirt with a political message on it? Who cares if they have a sign that they're subtly shaking over their head or not so subtly? Let them do it. Dragging the man out of the room in handcuffs gave him all the attention he came there that day to get. It gave him all the additional YouTube clicks and views, which he monetized. And he doesn't even live in Utah. It just boggles me sometimes how elected officials think on this stuff. I hope they change the rules. No one should have to leave a public hearing in Utah because they decided to put a sticker with a message on their T-shirt. Check it out. The body camera footage is available, and I've linked to it on our Facebook page, and you can see exactly what happened that day. And we should all be pressuring our elected officials to change some of these rules for common sense. More of For the People
Who do you
right
turn
after
to
this.
if you want to change out your wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They were voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah for the second year in a row in the fireplace retrofit category. Be ready when the government's next wood and pellet replacement incentives pop up. Advanced Fireplace can help you navigate the paperwork. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online, advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Welcome back to KBN News For the People. Thank you for tuning in today. Be sure to join us tomorrow. Charlie Schill kicks things off tomorrow in hour 1 of the show, taking a look at theater in Cache Valley. A lot of stuff opening this weekend. He'll be with us at 4. Dave Ramsey.